Have you ever noticed something strange in relationships? The harder a man chases, the colder things sometimes become. But the moment he stops chasing, something unexpected begins to happen. Suddenly, she starts thinking about him. She remembers the conversations. She notices the silence where his attention used to be. And a quiet question begins to appear in her mind: why do I suddenly miss him? You see, attraction often works in ways most people don't understand. When someone is always available, their presence can slowly become ordinary. But when that presence disappears, the mind begins to feel the space it left behind. In this video, we're going to explore a powerful truth about relationships. Sometimes, the moment you stop chasing, is the moment she finally starts missing you. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where we will learn, explore, and share valuable lessons about love. In today's video, I will reveal to you, when you stop chasing, she starts missing you, a new perspective, helping you better understand the factors that determine a happy and sustainable relationship. Let's explore with me the secrets to building a strong and meaningful love. Before we start, find a quiet place, put on your headphones and relax. Let all your worries melt away, and let the messages in this video help you calm down and feel the most complete. Are you ready? Let's start now. Part 1: The moment you stop chasing. Most men believe that love is built through pursuit. They believe that the more attention they give, the more messages they send, the more effort they show, the more a woman will value them. So they chase. They chase with compliments. They chase with constant messages. They chase with endless explanations of how much they care. At first, it seems to work. She responds. She smiles. She enjoys the attention. But slowly, something begins to change. The dynamic shifts in a way most men fail to notice. Because when a man constantly pursues a woman, something subtle happens inside her mind. His attention stops feeling special. It becomes expected. And once attention becomes expected, it slowly begins to lose its emotional weight. This is the quiet paradox of attraction that many men only learn through painful experience. The more you chase someone, the less they feel the need to move toward you. I learned this lesson the hard way. When I was younger, I believed persistence was the key to love. I thought that if I showed enough effort, enough loyalty, enough emotional investment, a woman would naturally appreciate it. But reality doesn't always reward effort the way we expect. Sometimes, the more you chase, the more ordinary you become in her eyes. Because your presence is no longer a mystery. Your attention is guaranteed. And the human mind rarely becomes fascinated by something it already possesses completely. This is where the philosophy of Stoic love begins to reveal something important. A man who understands himself does not live his life in constant pursuit of someone else's approval. He does not structure his day around waiting for someone's reply. He does not measure his worth by how much attention he receives. Instead, he lives his life with direction. He builds. He learns. He improves. And because his life is full, he does not feel the need to chase anyone to fill an emotional void. This is where the shift begins. Because the moment a man stops chasing, not out of anger, not out of pride, but out of self-respect, something unexpected happens. The emotional space between him and the woman begins to change. At first, she may not notice. After all, she is used to the rhythm of your attention. The messages. The effort. The consistency of your pursuit. But when that rhythm disappears, something interesting happens inside the human mind. It starts asking questions. Why hasn't he texted? Is he busy? Did something change? Did I push him away? These questions may seem small, but psychologically they are powerful. Because every question forces her mind to return to you. And the more her mind returns to you, the more psychological space you begin to occupy in her world. This is something most men misunderstand. They believe attraction grows from constant presence. But often, attraction grows from the absence that creates curiosity. When someone who used to pursue you suddenly becomes calm and focused on their own life, the brain interprets that change as a signal. Something is different. And human beings are naturally curious about what changes. This curiosity slowly becomes attention. And attention slowly becomes thought. She begins replaying memories. The conversations you had. The way you carried yourself. The calmness you showed in situations where other men might have reacted emotionally. And suddenly, something shifts. Instead of you thinking about her all the time, she begins thinking about you. Not because you forced it, but because your absence created a question her mind wants to answer. You see, the human mind does not obsess over what it fully understands. It obsesses over what it cannot fully explain. When you were chasing her, everything was clear. Your interest was obvious. Your intentions were obvious. Your attention was predictable. There was no mystery. But when you step back and focus on your own path, something changes. Your attention becomes limited. Your time becomes selective. Your energy is no longer constantly directed toward her. And suddenly, she begins to see you from a different perspective. Not as the man who is always available, but as the man who might not always be there. That possibility awakens something very powerful in human psychology. The awareness of potential loss. People rarely think deeply about something they believe will always remain. But when something begins to feel uncertain, the mind becomes alert. It begins to evaluate. To reflect. To remember. And sometimes, this is the exact moment when a woman begins to miss a man she once took for granted. Not because he disappeared dramatically, but because he quietly redirected his energy toward his own life. This is the essence of Stoic love. It is not about manipulating emotions. It is about mastering your own. A Stoic man does not stop chasing to provoke a reaction. He stops chasing because he realizes something important. Love that requires constant pursuit is rarely balanced. And a connection that only survives through one person's effort is not a connection built on mutual respect. So he steps back. Not in bitterness. Not in anger. But in clarity. He focuses on becoming a better version of himself. He invests in his purpose. He spends time with people who bring peace into his life. And he allows relationships to reveal their true nature without forcing them. And that is where something fascinating happens. Because when a man stops chasing, some women will walk away. But others will begin to notice the silence he left behind. And in that silence, a simple thought may appear in her mind. Why do I suddenly miss him? But this is only the beginning. Love is not always about brilliant moments, but often about patience, listening and accompanying in every small step. It is those simple things that nurture a lasting bond. That is also the reason why I believe that every experience in love is an opportunity for us to grow and become stronger. If you feel this, please click like as a way to spread positivity to more people. And if this is your first time visiting our channel, click subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any lessons. I also look forward to hearing your thoughts. What is the smallest but most meaningful thing you have ever realized in love? Leave a comment below, maybe your answer will become a source of inspiration for others. Now, let's continue our journey to explore deeper perspectives right away. Part 2, When Your Absence Creates Emotional Space. There is something interesting about human nature that most men only understand after they have experienced a few disappointments in love. People rarely miss what they never have the chance to lose. As long as something is always there, always available, always predictable, the mind slowly becomes comfortable with it. Not necessarily ungrateful, but comfortable enough that its presence no longer creates emotional urgency. This is exactly what often happens when a man constantly chases a woman. His messages arrive every morning. His attention arrives every evening. His effort never pauses. And because it never pauses, it becomes part of the background of her life. It is simply there. Reliable. Consistent. Expected. But the moment that rhythm changes, the mind begins to react. When a man stops chasing, he unknowingly creates something that was not there before. Emotional space. And space does something powerful to the human mind. It gives it room to think. When there is no space, the mind does not need to reflect. Everything is happening in real time. The conversation continues, the attention continues, the pursuit continues. But when that flow suddenly slows down, something unusual happens. Silence appears. And silence is where thoughts grow louder. At first, the woman may simply notice the difference. Maybe you no longer text first every day. Maybe you take longer to reply. Maybe you seem calm, focused on your own life, rather than constantly trying to keep her attention. She may not say anything immediately. But her mind registers the change. Why is he different? This question is small, but psychologically it is the beginning of something bigger. Because questions create attention. And attention creates thought. When your presence was constant, there was nothing to analyze. But when your presence becomes selective, the mind becomes curious. She begins noticing details she ignored before. The way you handled situations. The way you didn't argue when others might have. The calm way you carried yourself. The fact that you didn't seem desperate for validation. And slowly, your image in her mind begins to change. You are no longer just the man who gave attention. You become the man who had a life beyond her attention. This realization can create a very subtle emotional shift. Because confidence that does not seek approval is rare. And rare things always attract curiosity. Now here is where many men misunderstand the situation. They think the goal is to make a woman miss them. But the truth is deeper than that. A stoic man does not stop chasing to trigger emotions. He stops chasing because he understands something important. Attention that is given without limits eventually loses value. Value appears when something becomes selective. When your time is limited, your attention becomes meaningful. When your energy is not constantly available, it becomes noticeable when you give it. This is the quiet difference between a man who chases and a man who lives with purpose. The man who chases organizes his life around someone else's reactions. The stoic man organizes his life around his direction. He has goals. He has responsibilities. He has personal standards. His life does not pause because someone has not replied to a message. And that difference can be felt. Even through silence. Women are extremely perceptive when it comes to emotional energy. They may not analyze it logically, but they sense it. They sense when a man is waiting for their attention. They sense when a man becomes anxious if communication slows down. And they also sense when a man is calm regardless of what happens. That calmness can create something powerful. Respect. Respect is one of the deepest foundations of attraction. Without it, affection fades quickly. But when respect exists, even small moments become meaningful. When a woman realizes that your attention is not something she automatically owns, she begins to perceive it differently. She becomes more aware of it. More curious about it. More sensitive to its absence. And this is where missing someone begins. Not dramatically. Not instantly. But gradually. She may notice that conversations with you felt different from conversations with others. She may realize that your presence had a certain calmness she did not appreciate fully before. She may remember the way you listened without trying to impress. And slowly, those memories begin to surface more often. Because the human mind tends to revisit experiences that felt emotionally unique. But there is another reason why absence can create longing. When a man stops chasing, he gives the other person something they rarely experience. The responsibility of emotional effort. Before, you were the one initiating conversations. You were the one creating interaction. You were the one maintaining the connection. But when you step back, that responsibility quietly shifts. Now she must decide whether she wants to reach out. Whether she wants to ask how you are. Whether she wants to keep the connection alive. And when someone begins investing effort, their emotional involvement naturally grows. This is one of the most misunderstood truths in relationships. People often become attached not to those who invest in them, but to those they invest in. Every time she considers sending a message. Every time she wonders what you are doing. Every time she remembers a conversation you once had. Her mind is investing energy. And energy creates attachment. But here is something important to remember. Not every woman will respond this way. Some will simply continue living their lives without thinking twice. And that is perfectly fine. Because silence does not create feelings that never existed. It simply reveals the ones that were already there. If she begins thinking about you, it means something about your presence left an impression. If she begins missing you, it means your absence created a space she did not expect. And if she reaches out, it means she is curious about the man who no longer seems to be chasing her. But this is only the second stage of the story. Part 3, when she begins to move toward you. There is a moment that often surprises many men. It happens quietly. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer trying to maintain every conversation. You are simply living your life the way you should have from the beginning. And then one day, something unexpected happens. She reaches out. Maybe it is a simple message. Hey, how have you been? Maybe she reacts to something you posted. Maybe she suddenly asks a question that could have easily been left unasked. On the surface, it seems small. But psychologically, it means something important has shifted. Because when a woman begins initiating contact after you stop chasing, it usually means one thing. Your absence made her aware of your presence. This is the quiet power of stepping back. When you constantly chase, there is no emotional gap for the other person to fill. You are always there, always initiating, always maintaining the connection. But when you step back, the dynamic changes. Now there is space. And someone must decide whether that space remains empty, or whether they will step into it. When she steps forward, it tells you something valuable. She noticed the change. She noticed your absence. And more importantly, she cared enough to break the silence. Now here is where emotional maturity becomes important. Because the way you respond in this moment determines whether the dynamic remains balanced, or returns to the old pattern. Many men make the same mistake. The moment she reaches out, they become overly excited. They immediately return to chasing. They send long messages. They over-explain where they have been. They rush to recreate the attention they used to give freely. And in doing so, they unknowingly destroy the very shift that created her curiosity. The Stoic man understands something different. When someone moves toward you, you welcome it. But you do not abandon your center. You remain calm. You respond naturally. You do not pretend to be distant, but you also do not rush to prove your availability. Because attraction grows best in an environment of balance. Not pursuit. Not avoidance. But balance. This balance creates a new dynamic between two people. Before, the energy was one-sided. You were investing more attention. You were creating more interaction. You were maintaining the emotional momentum. But now, something has changed. Now she is investing. She is asking questions. She is initiating conversation. She is showing curiosity about your life. And when someone invests effort, something interesting happens psychologically. They begin to value the connection more. This is a principle that appears in many areas of life. People tend to care more about what they contribute to. The more effort someone invests into something, the more meaningful it becomes to them. The same principle applies in relationships. When a woman invests time and emotional energy into reaching out to you, her mind begins associating that effort with value. She becomes more engaged, more attentive, more emotionally involved. But here is an important truth. Not every woman who reaches out is doing it for the same reason. Sometimes curiosity brings her back. Sometimes nostalgia. Sometimes genuine interest. And sometimes simply the comfort of familiar attention. This is why the Stoic man does not rush to interpret the situation. He observes. He listens. He watches how consistent her effort becomes. Because one message means curiosity. But consistent effort reveals true interest. This is where patience becomes powerful. Instead of trying to force the connection forward, he allows it to unfold naturally. He answers questions. He shares conversation. But he continues living his life with the same calm focus he had before. His life does not suddenly revolve around the renewed interaction. And that consistency communicates something very important. He has standards. A man with standards does not become emotionally unstable when attention appears or disappears. He remains steady. And steadiness creates trust. Women often feel drawn to men who feel emotionally stable. Not because stability is dramatic, but because it creates a sense of security. A man who is calm, consistent, and grounded does not create chaos in relationships. He does not swing between intense pursuit and sudden withdrawal. He simply moves through life with quiet confidence. And confidence that does not need to prove itself is incredibly attractive. But there is another interesting psychological shift that happens when a woman begins moving toward a man she once felt was chasing her. Her perception of him begins to change. Before, she may have seen him as someone trying to win her approval. But now she begins to see him differently. Now he appears as someone who has options, direction, and self-respect. Someone who can walk away if the connection is not balanced. And that possibility often increases attraction. Because people naturally respect those who respect themselves. But this stage is still only part of the journey. Because as the connection begins to rebalance, another emotion can slowly begin to appear inside her mind. An emotion that many people do not talk about openly. It is the quiet realization that she might have almost lost someone valuable. And that realization can awaken something deeper than curiosity. Love is a great lesson in maturity. It challenges us with fragility, teaches us patience through waiting, and gives us strength after being hurt. Here, I don't just tell stories for you to listen to, but for you to reflect on yourself and find your own lessons. If you find it valuable, please click like and subscribe, so you don't miss out on the shares that can change the way you look at love. Now, get ready with me, because the rest will have a lot more depth waiting for you. Part 4, When She Realizes Your Value. There is a quiet moment in many relationships that few people recognize while it is happening. It does not come with dramatic words. It does not arrive with a sudden confession of feelings. Instead, it appears slowly, almost invisibly. It is the moment when a woman begins to realize that the man she once felt certain about might not always remain in her life. And that realization can change everything. When you were chasing her, your presence felt guaranteed. Your attention was predictable. Your effort never seemed to run out. From her perspective, the connection may have felt stable, even comfortable. She knew you cared. She knew you would respond. She knew you would continue trying. But comfort, when it becomes too predictable, can quietly reduce appreciation. This is not cruelty. It is simply human nature. People tend to notice value more clearly when the possibility of losing it appears. And when you stopped chasing, that possibility entered the picture. At first, she may not have thought much about it. Maybe she assumed you were busy. Maybe she believed you would eventually return to the same pattern as before. But as time passed, something began to change in her perception. She noticed that you were still living your life. You were not complaining. You were not begging for attention. You were not trying to convince her to stay interested. Instead, you seemed calm. Focused. Peaceful in your own direction. And that calm independence can be incredibly powerful. Because it communicates something without words. You value yourself. A man who values himself behaves differently from a man who constantly seeks approval. He does not try to control someone's feelings. He does not chase someone who shows uncertainty. He does not sacrifice his dignity just to maintain attention. Instead, he continues walking his path. And that quiet strength can change the way a woman sees him. Before, she may have viewed you as someone pursuing her. But now, she begins to see you as someone who simply chose to share his time with her. That difference may sound small, but psychologically it is enormous. One position feels like effort. The other feels like value. And when a woman begins to perceive a man as valuable rather than merely attentive, something shifts inside her. She begins remembering things differently. Moments she once overlooked begin to stand out. The way you listened carefully during conversations. The way you did not react emotionally when situations became tense. The way you respected her space instead of trying to control it. These details begin to form a new picture in her mind. A picture of a man who was not just chasing affection, but offering genuine presence. This is often the moment when appreciation begins to grow. Because when someone steps back and lives their life without bitterness, it reveals something about their character. It shows emotional maturity. It shows inner stability. And emotional stability is rare in a world where many people react impulsively to every feeling. Women often feel drawn to men who remain steady. Not because it is exciting in a dramatic way, but because it feels safe and strong at the same time. A calm man does not create unnecessary conflict. He does not become desperate when things slow down. He does not pressure someone to feel something they are not ready to feel. He simply allows the connection to reveal itself naturally. And when a woman begins to see that kind of emotional strength, her respect for him often grows. Respect is one of the most powerful ingredients in attraction. Without respect, affection fades quickly. But when respect exists, even quiet moments become meaningful. She may begin noticing that conversations with you feel different from conversations with others. Perhaps you did not try to impress her constantly. Perhaps you did not compete for attention. Perhaps your calm presence created a sense of peace she did not realize she appreciated until it was gone. And this realization can create a subtle emotional shift. Instead of seeing you as someone who needed her approval, she begins to see you as someone whose presence had value. And value, once recognized, is rarely ignored. This is when many women begin making a small but meaningful effort to reconnect. They may initiate deeper conversations. They may ask questions about your life. They may show curiosity about what you have been doing while you were focusing on yourself. Not because you demanded attention, but because your quiet absence allowed them to see something clearly. Your worth was never dependent on chasing them. But there is another important truth hidden inside this stage. Not every woman will come to this realization. Some people are comfortable letting connections fade. Some people prefer relationships where they are always being pursued. And that is okay. Because the purpose of stepping back was never to force someone to value you. The purpose was to stop abandoning yourself for someone else's attention. And when you stop abandoning yourself, something powerful happens. You begin to attract people who respect your boundaries. People who appreciate your calm confidence. People who recognize the quiet strength behind your presence. And sometimes, the woman who once felt certain about your attention begins to understand something she never fully realized before. She did not just lose a man who chased her. She almost lost a man who brought something rare into her life. A sense of calm. A sense of stability. A sense of quiet confidence. But the story does not end here. Because the final lesson of this journey is not about making someone miss you. It is about something much deeper. Part 5, The Day You Stop Chasing Yourself. At the end of all these dynamics, all these subtle shifts between distance and attention, there is one truth that matters more than everything else. The real transformation does not happen in her mind. It happens in yours. Because the moment you stop chasing someone is often the moment you finally stop chasing validation. When a man spends too much time pursuing someone's affection, something dangerous begins to happen without him realizing it. He slowly places his self-worth in another person's hands. Her replies affect his mood. Her attention determines his confidence. Her interest becomes the measure of his value. And when this happens, the relationship becomes unbalanced. Not because the woman intends it to be that way, but because the man has unknowingly abandoned his center. He is no longer living his life for his growth. He is living it for her reactions. But the day a man steps back and redirects his energy toward himself, something powerful begins to change. His mind becomes clearer. His emotions become calmer. His focus returns to the things that actually build his life. His work. His health. His purpose. His friendships. His growth. This shift creates a new kind of confidence. Not the loud confidence that tries to impress people. But the quiet confidence of a man who knows his life has direction. And direction is attractive. Not just to women, but to everyone. Because a man with direction is not easily shaken. He does not panic when someone loses interest. He does not collapse when a relationship becomes uncertain. He simply continues moving forward. This is the core of Stoic philosophy in relationships. A Stoic man does not try to control what others feel. He focuses on controlling what he becomes. He understands that he cannot force someone to value him. But he can become someone whose presence naturally carries value. And when a man lives with this mindset, something interesting happens. He stops fearing loss. Because he understands that the right people will stay without being chased. And the wrong people will leave no matter how hard he tries. This realization is incredibly liberating. It removes the pressure from every interaction. You no longer feel the need to impress someone constantly. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth through endless attention. You simply show up as yourself. Calm. Present. Grounded. And when you interact with someone from this place, the dynamic becomes healthier. You are not trying to win them. You are simply discovering whether the connection is mutual. This is what many men never experience because they spend so much time chasing. They never give the other person the opportunity to reveal their true level of interest. But when you step back and live your life with purpose, something important becomes visible. The people who genuinely value you will move closer. They will initiate. They will invest. They will make the effort to stay connected. And the people who are only enjoying your attention will slowly disappear. And that clarity is not something to fear. It is something to appreciate. Because time and emotional energy are two of the most valuable things a person has. They should not be spent chasing people who are unsure about you. Instead, they should be invested in growth, purpose, and connections built on mutual respect. And when a man truly understands this, his behavior changes naturally. He becomes more patient, more observant, more selective with his energy. He no longer needs to chase someone to feel important. He becomes the kind of man who values his time and attention. And when you value your own presence, others begin to value it as well. This is why the most powerful outcome of stepping back is not making someone miss you. It is discovering who appreciates you without needing to be convinced. Sometimes, a woman will begin to miss you when you stop chasing. Sometimes she will reach out again. Sometimes she will see your value more clearly. But even if none of those things happen, something far more important will. You will have learned to stand firmly in your own life. You will have learned that your peace is more valuable than constant pursuit. You will have learned that real connections do not require endless effort from one side. And that lesson changes the way you experience relationships forever. Because the strongest position a man can stand in is not the position of pursuit. It is the position of self-respect. So when you stop chasing, remember this. It is not the end of something. It is the beginning of becoming a man whose presence is chosen, not chased. And sometimes, in that quiet moment when you walk your own path, a woman may suddenly realize something she never fully understood before. That the man she thought would always chase her was actually the one she should have been afraid to lose. Conclusion. In the end, the moment you stop chasing is not about making someone miss you. It is about rediscovering your own balance. Many men believe that love must be constantly pursued, constantly proven, constantly protected with endless effort. But experience teaches a quieter truth: when attention is given without limits, it slowly loses its weight. The moment you step back, something changes. Space appears. And inside that space, emotions begin to reveal themselves. A woman may start to reflect, to remember, and sometimes to miss the presence she once thought would always be there. Not because you forced her to feel that way, but because your absence allowed her to see your value more clearly. But the deeper lesson is not about her reaction. It is about you. When you stop chasing, you return your energy to your own life, your purpose, your growth, your peace of mind. And from that place, you no longer need to convince anyone to appreciate you. Because a man who respects himself does not chase attention. He simply walks his path with calm confidence. And sometimes, in the quiet space he leaves behind, someone finally realizes how much his presence truly mattered. So today's video has ended. Thank you for taking the time to watch it all. I hope you have learned valuable lessons and these shares will help you on your love journey. If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to receive more interesting content in the future. I'm very grateful for your support and see you again in the next videos. Wishing you all love and happiness.